Loud. All right, here we go. All right, well, welcome to the Blue Collar Builders community. My name is Andy, and today's guest is the one and only Cam Mackey. He is one of the most energetic young entrepreneurs I've ever met, and super excited to share his story. Welcome to the show, Cam. How's it going?
Good. Andy, how are you?
Good, man. Did I
Good.
pronounce your last name right?
Yeah, Mackey. Everybody
Mackey.
spells it with a Y. It's like EY, like there's no Y, just Mac. Yeah.
Good deal. Well, good. We're off to a good start then.
Perfect.
Um, Wanted to first just kind of ask you, kind of tell us who you are, kind of what your background is, and give us a little bit of the introduction.
Okay. My name's Cameron Mackey. I am an entrepreneur and a serial one at that. I kind of, like many of us, get distracted by shiny objects, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But I've built multiple businesses. I've helped businesses, and I'm not even 22 yet. I actually turned 22 in 5 days. I started working when I was 16. I was working at a bike shop for minimum wage is what I tell, is kind of my story, right? So I was working at a bike shop. I used to race bikes, mountain bikes. I was making minimum wage in high school, as you do. And I bought my first car, my truck. I bought it and I was wanted to keep it clean. All right. So like chemicals and stuff, it cost, I think it was 50, $60, whatever. And that's a lot of money when you're working like weekends in high school. So I like cleaned I think I first cleaned my coworker's car to like make my money back. And then I did, I think it was like your mom's car, your grandma's car, something like that. And then the first like real job I did was a friend of my grandparents. It was like $200. I was like, holy crap, you know what I mean? Like we got to do more of this.
And
Um,
this was with the mobile detailing business, right?
yes, yes. So
Yeah.
that's what that was my origin, if you will. That's definitely what I started with. That was the first thing I ever did was just started cleaning cars, and then we scaled that over just over 4 years. We did that. But yeah, I started cleaning cars. And then, a year after year, I pretty much added I started out of the back of my truck. And then I went through a truck and trailer. And then I added a trailer and, I had somebody run that trailer. And then third year, we continued to add another crew every year. It seemed to be like the more available I could be. If you could be available, that was the name of the game. Or that still is. That's literally if you can be available and deliver. I mean, you're already like 80% of the way there compared to most people, and let alone answering the phone. You know what I mean? I mean, it sounds super simple, and it really is super simple. If I can do it, literally anybody can do it. You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or that's the way I feel about it. At least it takes work and time, but that's everything takes work and time. A job takes work and time. You know what I mean, or whatever. Um, but yeah, that's what I had started with, and then within that, I started doing like property services or with my buddy, kind of doing like landscaping stuff. So that was another little business. He ended up going to college, so nothing ever really came of that. Um, I graduated we graduated like in COVID, right? So right at the beginning of the whole thing, um, we got out of school early. Then I was like, I'm done. Like I'm not going back. You know what I mean? Or especially at that point, I was making I don't know whatever something crazy. Especially when you're what was I 18? I was making like 500-800 bucks a day, and like at that point too, it's like that's cash. That's like money in, money in really. You know, and it feels like you're on top of the world, of course. Um, and within that, I also had a trash bin cleaning company, and I was not the founder of that company. I did not start it or anything of that nature. I was more the operations and staffing side. So I like the founder, his name was Danny. He was a great guy, awesome. We're still friends. He was the kind of kid in school who like stuffed all his papers in his backpack. If that makes any sense. Like walking down the hallway, backpacks unzipped, and everything's just crammed in there. And this trash bin cleaning service is very much like trash pickup. It's a very logistical it's a logistical puzzle, right? In order for it to be efficient, and really efficiency in that game is making money. If you're not
Mm.
efficient, you're driving around town all day, wasting diesel, blah, 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 all this stuff. And that's kind of where they were at. And we got it to a point to where we sold that to a competitor, due to, various things. Once again, it wasn't my decision, wasn't my business, but it was great. I mean, great experience, great for my guys that helped, great for Danny. I mean, everybody kind of, that was a good experience. And with that. And then yeah, but yeah, like I said, I mean, it just kind of, I don't know, it all seems to kind of come out of nowhere almost, even
Yeah.
though in the moment it feels like you're almost stagnant, especially sometimes if you're down on yourself or whatever. If it's a rainy day kind of thing, it's like, man, this isn't worth it or whatever. But then you look back and
Yeah.
you're right where you wanted to be. It's like, man, that's so weird. I used to dream of having like trucks and trailers and doing fancy cars and the crazy shop and everything. And it's like, you don't feel it in the moment, but then like you have it all and you look back and it's like, holy wow, like that was, you know what I mean? And of course it takes work and direction. But like
Yeah.
I said, I mean, it's not like you got to be a
It's
rock.
that's awesome, Cam. It's I mean, yeah, between the mobile detailing and the trash cleanup, it's just awesome.
The trash thing was a really good. I mean, mobile detailing was they're both in the same market too, right? They're both
Yeah.
like luxury, high end services. Like if you got money to pay for your clean car, you got money to pay for trash cans, and trash cans are of course significantly cheaper. And that was a very cool business, I thought. But once again, you know, that the owner wanted to go a different direction. You know, whatever, totally cool, no hard
Yeah.
feelings.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the mobile detailing business. What
Okay.
was it that made you decide to get into that?
So it, I mean, I was never, I mean, I've always been a like relatively meticulous person, I guess, but nothing crazy. I mean, and I wasn't even good at it at first, you know what I mean? Or I mean, it feels like, I don't know exactly what it was. I mean, the big thing was like, seriously, when I said like the first car I got was like a $200 check, I was like, wow, that's like 3 weeks pay. Like, let me do one more. You know what I mean? That was kind of the initial, it was the money because I didn't grow up, you know, whatever, having a bunch of money, everything, you know, whatever. And I always wanted to have my own money. You can ask my parents or anybody. Like, I always wanted to make my own money. I always wanted to like, you know, do my own thing. I'd never thought I would be an entrepreneur, never wanted to really work for myself. And I just never thought about it that way. I was going to be the first person in my family to ever go to college and get a degree or anything, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, but what was it? I mean, it was kind of at first it was a little bit of the money and it was cool too, you know, especially I mean it's cool all the time, but in high school even too, is like, you know, I got my logo or after a while, you know, the logo came and I had like my first little like shirt with, you know, my logo on it. And it's like that's cool stuff. And you get to say, and that was back when I could barely take myself seriously when I said I owned a business or this is what I do. You know, I do cardio because it's like, well, what was it back then too? But and then you know, like I said, kind of before you know it, it's like you're answering phone calls and like I would work, you know, after school. What was it, 3 o'clock to I don't care. I mean, I still worked late, but you know, 3 to 8 or 9, and then weekends, like both days, every weekend. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, all right. Um,
So in the beginning, when
uh,
you guys were trying to find customers, did you reach out to friends and family to start? And then how did you
yeah.
expand? How did you grow your customer base outside of that?
So I will say at the beginning, and it was honestly a bit of an advantage, especially with my current business experience and just you know seeing things from the flip side. It was a bit of an advantage being you know whatever a full time high school student, you know, because at the beginning of any business, really, unless you're just going to dump a bunch of money into advertising and stuff, it's going to take time, right? Like at first it was one car and then another car kind of thing. But yeah, anyways, first people, obviously like friends and family, if you will. And then kind of came from there. And I always like as a business owner in general, like you're your number one salesperson, unless you have a number one salesperson, but I don't know where you're at, but I don't have a number one. You know what I mean? Like I just always talk about it essentially or tell people. And it's like, oh, hey, you do that, you know, that's really cool. Hey, I got a car and it needs to be cleaned. Okay, great. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. And it was always, I think what helped compound it so quickly was just I mean, putting in as much effort as I could. It was the value kind of thing. I mean, of course, it was relatively pricey, and it only got pricier because it only got pricier because the demand continuously increased as well. With that, of course, supply and demand. But I always I always wanted to do the best job, and I always want to leave the house too. I'd always at the beginning too. I'd always use people's like garden hoses and stuff, you know, and I'd wrap it back up like perfectly, even if it wasn't like that, you know, just little things and customer service things. I was always extremely, and I still am, very communicative. Yeah, like I would always text them and like, you know, hey, I'm on my way, and then eventually I got an app for that. But you know what I mean? Like I would, hey, we can't, like, sorry, what rain today? We'll reschedule to next week. You know, things like that. Just trying to be as customer centric as I could be. You know,
Yeah.
um, I would
Well, it
say,
sounds like so yeah, and it's interesting because I've talked to a handful of young entrepreneurs, and
yeah,
when you're starting your business, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, like you said, I wasn't even good at it in the beginning.
right.
And for a lot of people, that is the reality, and they have a hard time reaching out to friends and family because they don't want to mess their stuff up. What gave you the
Yeah.
confidence to feel like you could do that?
I mean, because I mean, in this case specifically, but I mean, we can get on to other things in the future. Like literally YouTube. I mean, it's funny. Like
Yeah.
YouTube University is a legit thing. And like kind of, and especially once again, if you care enough, which you will, because you're an entrepreneur, you want to do good for your family, right? Or you want to do good for your name, for anybody. You're going to do the best job you can. Go watch a couple of YouTube videos, and you figure out pretty good. If you care, once again, or if you want to learn, it's easy. I mean, I was never a book smart person. I mean, it was okay, I guess, but like, I could memorize something, but like, it's just the want to be better, I guess I could say. But as far as like the confidence, I mean, it was really, I mean, I like I said, I always wanted to keep my truck clean, so like that was kind of my first test, like case study, like you're talking about, and even we can like get on other things, but it's like just go do a few things for free. Go give first. You don't even need to like nobody's going to give you a bad. You can't. We're using car detailing, so it's like you can't make a car dirtier. Not really. I mean, you'd have to be really bad. You know what I mean? I don't know. And I will say one other thing, or a couple other things at the beginning, because I'm forgetting kind of. I started an Instagram right away. Obviously, didn't have any
Okay.
followers or whatever. That's irrelevant. But that's a portfolio. That's even better than a website, because website takes money and time to build, and Google listings, nobody really looks. I mean, people look, but it's not the same. Instagram, build a portfolio. All the cars you do, say some cheesy caption or say whatever. Um, that's one thing. And then I literally hand wrote, not the letters, I hand addressed hundreds of envelopes. Actually, I had my friends do it, but that's the difference. Anyways, you know what I mean? And I had girls do it because they have better handwriting. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna read, see my handwriting. But either way, the point is, I printed out like a letter, and I kind of played on the heartstrings a little bit. I was like, hey, I'm a young student. I'm a young local student, working, blah blah blah, and I sent it to like high end areas. I think I can probably go find the spreadsheets, right? But like, houses in Indian Hill, I went down like roads, and I would just take their address, copy and paste it off Zillow, back and forth, Hyde Park, Madeira, Terrace Park, I don't know, wherever, right? And we did that for 2 years in a row. Um, it was relatively labor intensive to hand address envelopes, and doing a good job with that. But that getting the word out was huge at the beginning. At the very beginning, that was a big thing. That was like my first summer. I sent out some envelopes before the end of the year. And then one other thing I will say is, this was a little bit later, probably after the envelopes. Um, we did a lot of mom cars. We did a lot of minivans, Suburbans, whatever. Okay, there's a market. It's not my ideal market, but it's a market that pays. Like especially in the beginning, I wanted to do supercars and whatever, crazy flashy stuff. Well, come down to it, you make the money on the mom minivans, and you make the money on
Mm.
the Chevy Tahoes, because they're so bad to begin with that almost anything you do makes it light years better, is part of it, kind of. But anyways,
Interesting.
I reached out to. I mean, there's mom group chats, like mom things. Hyde Park Moms. It's a huge Instagram account. I mean, she's cranking. I don't even know whatever. And I reached out to her. I was like, hey, I'm a young kid. Can I like come clean your car for free and then give me a shout out? Did that. I mean, dude, talk about a phone ringing. I couldn't turn it off. You know what I mean? And those were
That's
all.
smart.
That was probably one of my better moves. But as far as advertising in general throughout that whole business, that was, I mean, I never did paid advertising. I, at one point, almost tried to. I paid it, like, I think it was whatever, $1,300 for like a bunch of pretty cool like mailers, like whatever. Couldn't even send them out. We are always too busy. Never even got a chance. I literally sold them with the company. They have them. They have my number on them, so it's kind of broke. But I was like, whatever, you guys want them, like, or like, there, you can take them. I can't use them. You know what I mean? Uh,
That's funny. So just to kind of review a little bit, so
yeah,
you really focused on creating this just exceptional customer experience. So you
that was
called
the
them
idea.
before you arrived. When you arrived, you gave them an incredible service. You took pictures, you documented everything, you followed up with them to
Yeah,
make
always
sure that
followed
they
up.
had a
Yeah,
great experience.
Uh-huh.
Then you took the pictures that you collected and you put them out in the public. You put them on Instagram, you put them on
Right.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Once you had built the skills and the confidence, then you started connecting with the leaders of Facebook groups and
Yeah. Right. Once you
or
had a little bit of
in
a name,
wealthier areas, knowing, yeah,
right.
knowing exactly what your target market was.
Exactly.
And before
Yes.
you knew it, your phone was just ringing off the hook.
Right. That's exactly it. I mean, that's a more direct way to put it than the runaround, but that is, I mean, you need it because to get to like that tier, not that it was even crazy once again to reach out to some Facebook group, right, or the Hyde Park Moms group, but you can't. I wouldn't suggest maybe doing that if you're just starting out right away. Well, I mean, the first couple months, I mean, just but what I'm getting at is you need a portfolio, right? You need a
Right.
little bit of a name. You don't even need reviews or Google or website. I mean, I don't think anybody's asking. Nobody's checking credentials here, But if you just here's my work, here's what I have done. Let me do it for you. You're going to be amazed, right? Or I'm confident you'll be amazed. Won't charge you. Happy to do it. And just all I want to shout out. Literally, I don't even think she made a post. I know she didn't make a post. She put me on her story. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. She sent me out in their mail letter. She sent like a little thing, part of it. So yeah, but I mean,
That's awesome.
just incredible. Find somebody with outreach or sorry, what am I looking for? Like
With an audience, yeah.
influence. Yeah, with an audience. Yes, find somebody who's got people watching and get in front of them.
It's awesome. Yeah. So you, at the peak of that business, how many people did you have working for you?
Yeah, man, a
Can you
lot.
share just rough revenue
Yeah,
numbers?
yeah. No,
Yeah.
happy to. I mean, if you know as well as anybody, revenue don't mean take home. That's for sure. um, so let's see. I mean, last year we like I said, scale it every year, whatever. Last year, just before I'd sold last summer, I mean, it was a little excessive. I mean, we were cranking. We had, I know, 10 people with me 3 days a week and 6 people the other two. Well, sorry, the other three, because I can't remember. At some point, we stopped working weekends because I was like, we don't, in like this staffing situation, I was like, we just don't need to deal with that. But, anyways, 3 days a week, 10 people, 2 days a week, 2 or 3 days a week, 6 people. So 3 crews and 4 crews. I mean, it was, and at that point, too, I mean, and I had just hired or promoted, if you will, a manager. So we were getting there, the growing pains, right? They got me running around like a chicken with a head cut off, like answering phone calls, putting out fires here and there, and trying to talk to the clients. So at that point,
How many
but
cars were you doing a day?
um, it depends because the jobs, like we do RVs sometimes, or we used to go down to like the marina and that we would do boats. Boats were easy cheddar. I mean, we go down there and like boomstick, wash a boat and, take 20 minutes to pop. It was kind of a bear getting down there. And like you're out there working on water, but it was money. I mean, $150 a pop, probably take you 20 minutes, but you got to get down there. You got to dog it out, like go work in the heat on the water, whatever, but you don't have to dry them or like wipe them down when you're done. Like you just washing them.
Hmm.
But either way, yeah, probably 10 guys max. And then we did in 2023, we did 2023, right? No, 2022. We did 385, just under 400 in sales, 385,000 in sales. And then the year before that, and I don't think we quite doubled every year, but pretty damn. I mean, we went like, I don't know. The first recorded year was like 120, or I think before that, maybe we did, I don't know, whatever, 120, 280 or 240, and then 385.
Man, that's
Every
awesome. And
crew was like 120.
that all started from
Yeah,
just friends and family.
pretty much.
You watched a few YouTube videos, you figured it out, and you went out and took action.
Yeah, went to it and taking action. I mean, that is like just executing, not even the right way. You'll never do it the right way, especially the first time, unless you're like very, I don't even know. You just won't. There's not a chance you'll do it the right unless you have experience in the industry or something. You know what I mean, or previous experience. But if you're fresh doing something, I mean, when you talk about my um, dirt work, kind of construction company, you want to talk about doing things the right way, especially at first. I was like, man, I don't know, but yeah, and a good thing to do, a really easy thing to do, I guess, is like, and we all have a phone contact list. I think, just scroll down that, find some people who like know you, or just to get started once again. And those people, not that you're going to even maybe charge them, you get a couple of them. but like, hey, whoever, let me come clean your car for free, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
do for free, document it, get a bunch of pictures, have them write you a testimonial, and
Yes.
then start
Yeah,
putting that out into the world. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean,
that's
it's not as hard. I don't even know if it seems hard. I don't know. It's not as hard as I don't know. I feel like, and that's just my experience. I've almost always worked for myself at this point. Um, but I feel like it'd almost be harder to go and like work a corporate job. Like I'm not, I
yeah,
want to be me, or like I like to do things the way I do them. And within being that, like I said, we're running 10 guys. It's a lot of personality. At that point, it almost becomes an adult daycare. I mean, to some extent, right? I mean, you just got to, and learn, and me being so young too. I mean, I had people older than me working for me. That's a little bit of an interesting dilemma, but it was always fine because I always, my intentions, or the methodology of thought was always like, you guys don't work for me, I work for you, right? I work to make
hmm.
your life. I'm going to give you the best equipment possible to do the best job possible, because I'm going to ask you to go out there and clean a black Tahoe in 100-degree heat. I want you to be able to do it quickly, efficiently, and as effortlessly as possible. You know, I can't expect you to do a good job if I go give you like a little cheap, just low quality tools and low quality products. And I'm going to ask you to do a high quality job in a relatively timely manner. And you got three more after that. Like that's just not going to happen, you know?
Yeah,
And that's just one example, I guess. But as far as working kind of for them, like whatever I can do, hey, I'm going to go to Costco twice a month and get us all a bunch of snacks and good drinks. And it's like, what does that cost? It costs a business. I mean, nothing. It costs a business a couple $100 a month. And it's worth it's literally probably worth its weight in gold for like performance. Like people just love that.
yeah,
I love it. Don't you love it when you go to the bank and you get like a sucker? Maybe that's like a little kid, but like something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like
yes,
it almost feels it feels better than free. I don't know. It's just like um so things like that for sure. We do our best to
yeah.
care about the team.
It's awesome. Yeah. So it just, yeah, it sounds like you had your priorities in the right place. You were focused on serving customers. You were focused on serving your team. And ultimately, the brand that you had created, you could feel that care. You could feel that service. You could feel that when people interacted with you.
Yeah.
I'm
Those are
curious,
big things.
did you have, along that journey, did you have any mentors or people that helped guide you through that?
At the beginning, no. I mean, at the first, like, oh man, I mean, 2 years. I mean, the first portion, absolutely not at all, which was interesting. And as we came for growth, I mean, I remember I was still in high school at this point, and my high school business teacher was saying something about there's a website called like score.org, and you can get like a free mentor. And he was nice. I called him Mentor Mike, some guy named Mike. He was whatever, much older guy, and he was interesting too because he only worked, like, he was a high up in a corporate job, but he was a very smart guy, and he was it in general, it's just good to talk to like-minded people. I mean, that's such a
Yeah.
powerful thing. Just any sort of intellectual conversation and like-minded people, even like this, it's like my brain's jogging. Part of like what I was getting at, I guess, or um, part of why I cared so much about the team and the business. I wouldn't say the business, but the team mainly is because I do have entrepreneurial background in my family. My grandpa owned a body shop on the west side of town for his whole life, pretty much. And I always watched him growing up. He would have, and he was a great guy, but he would have the biggest fits over these things, right? And it was almost funny, right, to watch a man, of this uh, maturity, like have go through fits over cars and this and that, and then he would never really have anybody work with him, at least long term, because the old way of like, you want it done right, you got to do it yourself, which is like relatively true, but it's not, because you can teach it and you can find the right people, and it almost takes more work at first to not, or to teach somebody, right, or to manage somebody, but then you have to. I mean, you only make the money when you scale. If you want it done right or you want to do it yourself, you're gonna be doing it yourself for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And if that's your mentality, you're far better off working for somebody and
Hmm.
doing a relatively decent job and working your way up. Um, that's my opinion, I guess. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there are situations where people make it work, but yeah, I mean, you essentially create a
yeah,
job for yourself, and then
right.
you
And you get a
carry
pay.
all of the liability and you carry
Exactly.
all of the stress.
Right. And then you're
And
off.
yeah, I
I'm going
think
to be
there
off.
is there, I think it's interesting because, a lot of the folks that will listen to this, they are probably on the front end of their journey and they're trying to figure out what's the idea, what's the thing that I need to get started with. And, you know, for those first couple years of that first year, it's okay to
Yeah.
do it by yourself, but you do hit a
Oh, for
point where you're
sure.
like, you can't take the calls, you can't do the marketing, you can't
Well,
do the service, you
that was
can't,
kind of part of it. You do
follow
have
up with customers. Yeah.
you have to do it yourself too, because or at least you have to have experience doing it yourself, whether it's your business or previous experience. You can't ask somebody. That's one thing I will say. So you do have to start it yourself to some extent, right? But you can't ask somebody to do something that you haven't done, or you can't do a good job of managing somebody doing something for you that you don't know really how it should be done, if that makes so yeah, you absolutely have to kind of start it. You have to bootstrap it a little bit, right? And that's the
Yeah.
fun. It's the grunt work. It's almost maybe not fun, but it's fun when you look back. So it's one of those things. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that was part of it too. I never ever asked anybody to do anything I wouldn't, and you kind of got to show face a little bit, or I think it's important to, after a while, especially year 3, year 4. I'm in office sometimes, or I'm at the shop, but I'll still come out there at least a couple times a week. And whether I come out and like just, hey, I'm bringing you guys drinks for the day or whatever, I'm checking on you, bringing you drinks. That was always nice. But like, I'll go out and hand wax an RV, a 55-foot, double trailer RV in the sun. Like, I don't care. Like, I want to make sure it's clear that I'm not like getting lazy, if you will. I'm not just like one of those things.
Yeah.
It's different in different things too, especially as you scale to a much larger. I can imagine. I guess it would be different, but it's important to, like I said, show face.
Yeah. And then in 2023 or the beginning of 2023, maybe end of 2022, you sold the business, correct?
Yes. So somewhere in the middle of 22, this is a bit of a story too. Okay. So guy that used to work for me went off, started his own thing. Totally fine. I was always there to help him. Like, there's enough cars for everybody to clean, kind of thing. You know what I mean? He, continued to do his own thing for probably a year or two. And I ended up, like, we were good buddies. I ended up walking into his shop one day. I think I jokingly said, I was like, hey, um, when are you going to buy me out? And I don't exactly remember what happened, right? But then that's what started it, right? So that probably started in like June or July of 22. 6 months later, on Valentine's Day at 23, we had finally closed the deal. And that's a long 6 months too. I mean, if anybody's ever been through an acquisition, that's a grueling time. And especially too, because it's interesting too, because like you're still trying to do as good as you can for this business because it's your business and your name. But you're also like, on one hand, it's like, am I going to be doing this next year? All these things. And it's like, well, and also, what if all this time, what if we don't close? What if something happens at the end? I don't know. What if anything else happens and we don't close? Because you start to fall in love with the idea of, you know, being bought out or closing, right? And that's something that was an interesting process. But yeah, we had finally closed in 2023. And yeah, it was just a long process in legal and the accounting and just everything. It's good learning though for everybody involved, I think.
Yeah.
For me, for
It's
sure.
awesome. Did you, when you started the business
Mhm.
and as you had started scaling it, was that something you were looking to do, or did that just kind of fall into your lap?
So, like I had said, that was it came about as a joke. Like I literally was like I said, hey, when are you gonna buy me out? But I will say one of my earlier clients, years, I mean, probably 2 or 3 years earlier, um, was a successful business person, and I'm looking at all the stuff he has while I'm cleaning his, $150,000 S class. And I'm like, man, what do you do? So, and that was part of like, as far as early mentors, um, not only, I mean, since I was in a high end market, a lot of people are successful. A lot of these people are high end people, especially if I can tell somebody's business. Or a lot of times when I was younger, I'd be like, what do you do? Like what's going on here? You know what I mean? Or just try and talk to them. And whether they had fancy stuff or not. I mean, some of the people that were the most helpful didn't have anything fancy, you know what I mean? Or to some
Mhm.
extent. But anyways, client cleaning his stuff. And I'm like, what do you do? He was like, always build the business with the mindset, I guess, that you're going to sell it. Always build it with that. Put, as many systems as you can in place. Replace yourself as much as possible. Hire people. But the big things were like, get good Google reviews and really just have a good brand, right? That was his thing, or
Yeah.
that's kind of what he said. always build a business like you're going to sell it, whether you do or don't, whatever. Because I never, before that, or before the joke, I had never, I had thought about it, and on some bad days, you know what I mean? It's like, man, I'd sell this business for a nickel right now. You know what I mean? Whatever. It's like I would be, but like I said, those are bad days. Business is like entrepreneurship. It's a roller coaster. Like it is just the wildest roller coaster. I haven't done many drugs, but I can only imagine it's the best drug out there. I mean, the good days are so good, and the bad days are so bad. It's incredible. And not the bad days really, but the good days. I mean, when you make that big sale, I remember our first like $4,000 detail job. I was like, holy crap, that's a crazy feeling. But then you shortly after that, you might realize that it's $4,000 worth of work. However, it's cool stuff. You know what I mean? The biggest sale or whatever big
Yeah.
milestones you get, your first employee or you're like your first day of like sending a crew out without you. You know what I mean? And then like them getting good reviews. It's like, oh man, that's now we're on to something, right? You know?
Yeah. That's
Um,
awesome.
so, yeah.
So you sold the business and you've kind of had a handful of endeavors going on the
Yeah, man,
last
I've done a
year.
lot of
Kind of
stuff.
bring us up to speed on where you are now.
All right, where I'm at now, now I've acquired some real estate with a partner. We got a motel. We're getting another motel, and we have two four families. And that was kind of all that real estate in and of itself was always like a side quest idea. I was like, and even when I had before I had sold it, man, I had cash saved up from years of work, and just reinvesting back in the business. So that was always an intention or a part of the plan. But really, one of the big things I'm working on is a fleet washing, a mobile fleet washing company. So it's very similar. Well, it's very similar to the naked eye, right? To like detailing. It couldn't be more different. I mean, it's as close to detailing as Mike's car wash is, right? I mean, it's just actually two completely different things, and you happen to end up with both of them. With like Mike's, you get a little bit of a cleaner car, right? But it also damages your car. But it's just I feel like because I was originally kind of I was like, oh, what's like a relatively easy. I mean, nothing's an easy business to scale, but like what's something that fits my timeline? I had done some other things and I explored some other endeavors and I was doing it and really liking a lot of it. But then it's like, this doesn't add up for what like I want out of my life. And once again, timeline, one of the things, I did was, get into kind of dirt work construction. I mean, I think every little kid can't just be me wants to, drive a dump truck or drive an excavator with a dump truck, all these things, right? It's like the coolest stuff. And I did it. We did extremely well. And like, I was just writing a thing about Forged Earth, the company I'd started the other day. And I think we did like a buck 25 or 30 in sales in 5 months. Once again, from like just after selling a car detailing company, like where'd that come from?
Amazing.
Now that's a little
Yeah.
bit different too, because at that point I have experience running a business and I have a list of connections and people. So that's not starting your second business is going to be different than your first. Starting your first
Yeah.
business, you can't just I mean maybe you can, but I doubt
Yeah,
it.
well, it's kind of interesting because, a lot of people, especially young people, I think at least when I was growing up, the goal was always, the target was always, how do I make $100,000 a year? That's
Yeah.
probably changed now with
Well,
COVID
still
inflation,
though,
everything.
that's a milestone no matter
But
what. Yeah.
yeah, for a young person, how do I make $100,000 a year? And it's really interesting because if you break that down across the whole year, it's
Yeah.
really $275 a day.
Right.
When you say it like that, it's like, oh man,
That's crazy.
that is attainable. But
Right.
it's also interesting hearing you talk about these service businesses that you've started. And literally, even when you're talking about your first year numbers with the mobile detailing business, sounds like you guys were close to 100,000. And
Um
then with the Forged Earth in 5 months, you guys over
right.
100,000. And it's so interesting the financial power you have
I honestly will
when you
tell you,
lean in.
yeah, as I'm trying to it's interesting. I can honestly, and like I said, I got into it kind of because of the money, because I always wanted my own money, blah, blah, blah. But almost, and even still to this day, even through Forged Earth or whatever other endeavor, I almost never think about the money to some extent. I don't
Yeah.
not think about it, but I almost like don't look at it as $100,000. Like what kind of what service can I do or what product can I make that I can sell? What literally what can I sell? Okay, if you can sell something, you got it. All right, and then it just becomes a a matter of time, or B, an equation, right? And time is part of that equation. How fast can you tell it? How fast can you deliver that service, or whatever it
Yeah.
may be? For car detailing, my example was like, all right, like I never even really I'm sure I did, and I totally know. I remember when I hit my first $100,000 in sales, and had my first $100,000 like net kind of thing. I was like, oh, like, these things are crazy, like, okay, let's. And like then you get that taste of success, and you see that success is from your hard work and like blood, sweat, and tears, literally. It's like I got to keep doing this. That's the I guess what I'm getting at, like the best drug part. It's like, man, that's just a crazy feeling when like you
Yeah.
see your success. And I was never a winner before. Not that I'm maybe a winner now, but like I never won like races in sports, and I even mountain biking. Like I never was on the podium. And then it's like all of a sudden I'm killing it, cleaning cars, and obviously have gotten into other things. And it's like, this is might be my little niche in life,
It's awesome.
and
It's
then
awesome.
that
Well,
too. Go ahead.
yeah, well, I don't want to skip over the the comment you made about buying two motels.
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like that's a pretty big deal. I'm curious,
So yeah.
what is your vision for those properties? What are you guys
So
working on there?
my thought with this, or real estate in and of itself, I don't need to go into the real estate, what it's about. Right? It's about making money. Everything's about making money, but it's about making money. It's like, okay, these motels, I've got business experience. They actually came from, it's your net worth. Your network is your net worth, right? It's who you know. So these motels came from a client of mine that I had known through detailing, once again, whatever, over the years when we had been friends. Um, they are a bit more business than your, of course, average, like, rental property or apartment building, or even like a house flip. There's a manager there. There's people kind of coming in and out um, more frequently and things of that nature. And it's like, okay, well, I can apply. Once again, I've got business experience at this point. I'm really good with people, in general, and just kind of managing things. Um, and they are just I've owned it, first one for a month and a half, 6 weeks now at this point. Um, and I knew this going into it. All right, they are just far more profitable. It's like, all right, so if we can grind at the beginning, if we can run these two motels at the beginning, if that can snowball, because it's a snowball. I'm not trying to like, I'm not even 22. Like I said, like this is going to be reinvested back into the business, and hopefully one day it all goes great, and I go on a bunch of real estate, make a bunch of money. But in the short term, I need as much money as possible to buy as much real estate as possible. Okay, these motels, once again, more profitable. I'll dog it out for now. I'll run a motel, or I'll manage, if you will, property manage these properties. Um, and like I said, just snowball it as quickly as I can into more properties and more things. And now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, it's doing better than we thought, which never happens. I can't, very rarely, at least, you can, and it's like, man, maybe our niche is like, maybe we buy more motels. Maybe we go down 75
Yeah.
Florida and scooping up motels.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that because I think, for a lot of people who are considering starting a new business or have a small business,
Yeah.
you look at those opportunities and oftentimes you think about like what could go wrong? What am I missing that could fail, that I could lose all this money or whatever. Um, and it's really interesting to hear you say they're actually going better than we expected, because the flip side of that question is
Yeah.
what if it goes great? What if it's awesome, And it's fun to hear you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. And that's definitely a thought in the back of your mind, right? Always, even as a business owner. I mean, you guys are in big site work. You guys got big equipment. I can only imagine, it's numbers, right? And it's probably got to be a little scary sometimes or whatever. But like, I mean, I think, like I said from the beginning, just, well, and this is different. I don't know. A lot of what I do is like, I'm not much of a planner. I like goals, right? I like goals much more than planning, because very few things, even in your day, go to plan. You know what happened this morning? I had a plan for this morning. It was hilarious. You make a plan, the world laughs. Make a plan. 8:30 in the morning, I get a call about the motel. Room 3 had a clogged shower drain. That wasn't life or death. I didn't need to go do it, but I just went and did it. Took care of it, and that took. Then it was, by the time I'm done with that and a couple other little things, it's 11 o'clock. All right, well, there goes my morning. Okay, what are we doing now? Let's start where we were at 8. But as far as goals and risk, I don't know. It's hard to say. Part of the benefit of me is being young. I do understand that. But if you're starting out, I mean, just do it, man. I mean, try and look. I will say one thing too. Um, there's not necessarily a huge need in this world that I see. I mean, you don't need to be an Elon Musk or like a Jeff Bezos. You don't need to be like literally copy, change, flip. At the beginning of detailing, what I did, I look at other detail companies. Oh man, these guys are doing crazy fancy cars and they got a great Instagram. Like, how can I copy it? Like, I want to be like them, but I'm gonna change it a little bit and like put my own twang on it. You know what I mean? Or put my own like personality into it or whatever it may be. But there's enough, especially in service businesses, products get a little hairy with copying for copyright, and that's a thing, or patents and stuff. But either way, I mean, there's a lot of them out there. I don't know. I mean, there's
Yeah.
all of my success so far has been a service business, servicing people. I'm not a genius, like I don't have any great ideas for products at the moment. I've had a few, but whatever. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
just grunt.
Well, I think you're a testament to, one, just take action. Start moving forward,
Absolutely.
start taking steps because it
The
is a
biggest
lot
thing.
easier to steer a moving ship than a ship that's just
It's
sitting still.
that, and like you'll talk yourself out of it. You'll talk yourself out of anything
Yeah.
almost before you even do it. I mean, you'll talk yourself out of it. You're your own biggest enemy by far. Nobody else cares at all. Nobody else cares at all. You can do great. You can do great things, or you can do terrible. Nobody's going to be there for you. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to say, "Hey, go do that. It's a really good idea." Or I think you're going to be like, they will come after they see you, put a year into it, or just whatever time and some success. They're gonna be like, oh, how'd you do that, or where'd that come from? It's like, yeah,
The
it's
1 year overnight success. Yeah.
yes, there's none of that there. And you'll see, I mean, man, and I hate to see a lot of these things, we see on social media and stuff, and it's just like, it's unfortunate because it gives you, I mean, I literally have had people that work with me for years. I call them entrepreneurs, right? All they do is talk about it and talk
Yeah.
about it and talk about it. And it's like, oh my, I don't think I talked that much about, I guarantee you I didn't. I saw that first check and I started talking to people about cleaning cars. Stop talking about it and start, just do anything. Do it something you think you want to do, and you'll find out quickly whether you want to do it for the long term, or whether you think you'll be successful in that or not, and you pivot to something else, or you go back to your job for a little
Yeah.
while until you figure like, that the world is so not risky. I mean, if you think it's risky to start your own business, I mean, what if the person you're working for, unless you're like a massive corporate company, maybe, like, what's the guarantee that they're not going to
Right.
screw up greatly, and you're going to lose your job, or just like you don't perform well? I don't know. I think the risk is minimal, especially in a service business, because a service business doesn't really require all this
Tons
stuff. I
of
mean,
startup. Yeah.
yeah, anything startup. Like, you're not even starting up a site work company kind of thing. Like, you're in, like, you can start with renting equipment. You can start with all these different things. Of course, it's more expensive. There's a whole backside to it. Well, whatever. Just deliver. Get the job done. Get a good experience. Get a 5-star review, and move on to the next one. Learn what you
Yeah.
can. Don't do the same mistakes, kind of thing.
That's awesome. That's
And
awesome.
like the
Well,
motel. Sorry, yeah.
no, it's awesome. I think that's great. And I think, I was going to ask you, do you have any closing statements or any advice you would give to people who are wanting to start or on the fringe? But I think you just gave it.
Yeah, stop talking
I
about
think
it,
that
start
was
doing
great.
it. That's my favorite. That's literally, I think it's my bio in like Facebook or Instagram. That's my favorite thing, because so many people talk about it, and all we do is we scroll through, TikTok or Instagram or whatever your poison is, and you see all these, like, a lot of them are like pseudo mentors or like pseudo people. Like, a lot of them, check their credentials, they probably ain't got nothing, you
Yeah.
know. And this that the business owner life is embellished. Um, to some extent, but it becomes a labor of love. I know, like I said, I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I remember telling my mom, who works for herself, she cuts hair for herself still, I remember telling her when I was younger one time, I was like, I don't want to work for myself. I said, I don't want to be like grandpa. So now I work for myself, and I'm not at all like grandpa. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do everything myself. I don't like get angry. And I used to have that in me. Right. But like, you can't lead people and not be able to control your emotions, you
Yeah.
know? Um, I don't
Yeah.
know. But as far as
Well,
risks, yeah,
it's awesome. I love your story, Cam. I think you are such an inspiration to young people who are, on the fringe about whether they should do something
you're
or not do
young,
something. I mean,
it's the time to do it. Yeah,
you've literally started a business and sold a business and you're continuing to do things. I think the reality of, the mobile detailing, it's like you started it, it wasn't the thing that you were going to do for the next 40 years, but
right.
a key connection came out of that that
That is
led to
always
your
what I
next
did
thing.
know. I did know that, and that's what kind of also what allowed me to do it for maybe so long or whatever. I always knew that I would not do it, or that was never my plan to do it forever. Right? I was not like I'm not going to retire on this. Like I'm going to either make as much money as I can and do something else or sell it. And ended up being, that was opportunities. What is it? What is it? Luck is residue of hard work. That's another, like,
Yeah.
I heard that from somebody, and it's like, man, that's so true. Like I never even thought about selling my business, and like the only reason I could sell it is because it was so valuable. The brand, the name, the client list, that took a lot of hard work. It ain't luck. It was, you know, um, interesting how it came about, but it would never have came to fruition if there was not hard work behind it, and
Yeah.
things like that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, in closing, I just want to tell everybody who's watching this, Cam is just continuing to
My
start
best.
businesses and
Yeah.
share his experiences. And he is a part of the Blue Collar Builders community
Yeah, I think it's
on
awesome.
school.com.
I
Super
really do.
excited to have him in there. So if you want to connect with him that way, you can join the community. Or are there other places people can follow you, Cam?
Instagram's Cam Mackey. I think that's all. Like Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't have anything crazy. I'm not on LinkedIn or anything because it's not about that. Just go do it. Just go do
Yeah. Awesome.
it.
Cool. Well, Cam, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And like I
Yeah,
said, uh, thanks again. And yeah,
yeah. Thanks
anyone
for
who's
having me.
listening, feel free to jump into the community or follow Cam on
Honored to
his
be a part of
profiles.
this, man. It's really cool, and especially too because we see people doing stuff like this, and it's like now I'm kind of on a little one, and let's see what happens. But I'd love to come back or be of any use I can be for sure. I love what you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Cam.
Very good. Thank you.